Hey, it's Jamie again. Good at Go Happy Yourself. I'm still so new at this. I don't know if I'm supposed to say that every time I come on, but if you're here, you probably know why you're here. So, whatever. I'll still do it till we all figure it out. So today it's Sunday. It's about 3 o'clock, and I normally do these videos either first thing Saturday morning or first thing Sunday morning. And today I'm really, really late. But I figured I better get it done or it's not going to be out. And there actually is so much that I wanted to talk about today. And I came back from Colorado last week, so I have all these thoughts running in my head about like traveling and all these tips and things that I've learned through traveling that I really wanted to give you. But I felt compelled to talk today about a book that I read when I was on the plane. And, I really believe that there are no accidents in this world. There really aren't. Like, everything happens for a reason. And, I troll Facebook. I don't post a lot on Facebook, but I was trolling on Facebook and I saw this book came across my Facebook page. And it's not a new book. The book is about 25 years old. And so I bought it from Amazon, and I had it delivered, and it came, and I threw it in my suitcase because I said, I'll just read it on the plane. And I don't know what I was expecting, but it was it was a really sweet story, and it just reinforced things that I already believed in about the universe. And I don't know if you call it God or the universe. I don't even know what I call it. I know with every fiber of my being that there is a force greater than myself out there, and that force is constantly watching out for me. And when we acknowledge that and we follow that and we live our lives according to that, I believe our life is supposed to be easy. And it's when we fight that, when we think we know better and we want to do something this way, and the universe thinks it should be that way, you're in a struggle and you're let's say rowing against the tide when your life is supposed to be downstream, easy. And when you're fighting it, you're trying to go upstream. And sometimes, and I don't know if this is where the saying comes from, but sometimes you just have to let go of the oars and let the boat right itself. So when they say let go and let God, sometimes that's what you have to do, because maybe, just maybe, you don't have all the answers. So what this book is about is putting something out into the universe and saying something. And when you say you want something, the universe will conspire to make that happen. And it has happened in my life more times than I can count. And I'll give you an example of that. But it has also worked in the opposite way, where I have wanted something so very badly and was working and working and working and working towards that, what I wanted. And the universe is saying, but Jamie, no, it's not going to happen. So I'm going to tell you that story first, and I'll try to make it as quick as possible. In 2010, I decided, I was living in Charlotte, North Carolina, and I decided that I was going to move to San Diego, where my dad was living, to take care of him. He was about 80, in his late 80s, and he had been living with his companion, and she had taken a turn. Her health was not good, and he was caring for her, and it was clearly too much for him. So, with my sister and I, it was just easier. I'm really unencumbered. She has a family and, a job and all that other stuff at the time. So it was easier for me to do it. And so I had my own business in Charlotte at the time, which I had to shut down. And I moved to California, San Diego, which, is really not a hardship because San Diego is a beautiful place. And I had family out there that I really had never met. They were West Coast people. We were East Coast people. And, neither of us had the resources to, visit. I had met my aunt a couple of times, but her family I had really never met. So I was moving out there and I was going to meet a whole other side of the family that I had never met, which is kind of cool, right? So I also had to get a job because I was not going to run my business there. And so I was leaving at the end of October, and so mid-September I applied for a couple of jobs through Craigslist, okay? And I didn't hear anything, and I'm like, okay, well, that's weird, but I'm not out there yet, so I'll get out there and whatever. Well, about 2 weeks before I was supposed to leave, so on those Craigslist ads, I applied for 3 jobs, and 2 weeks before I was supposed to leave, don't you know, I started getting calls from those places. I heard back from all 3 places, and all 3 places interviewed me over the phone, and all 3 places said, I told them I was leaving in, a matter of days, and it would take me a couple of days to get out there. And all 3 places said, well, 2 of the places said, please, call us. One guy told me, listen, I don't think it's going to be a fit for me, but my wife is also looking for somebody, and I think you would be an awesome fit for her. So please call me when you get out there. Another place was a school in Carlsbad, and they said, give us a call when you get out here. We'd love to see you. And then the 3rd place was an agency that was hiring. It was a contractor that hired for the Navy, the U.S. Navy. And I did know, even though I hadn't met them, that my family out on the West Coast were Navy people. So I'm like, well, that would be really, really cool. So, they were very upfront, and they said, listen, we want somebody that's here. And I said, well, I'm not here, and I can't get there before this time. All right, so long story short, I'm leaving to go, and they call me and they want to do a phone interview. The Navy people, they call me and they want to do a phone interview. And so I do a phone interview, and now I'm doing the interview from the road. And they're like, okay, great. When can you come in and see us? And I said, well, I anticipate getting to California on a Tuesday. On Tuesday, I can come in on Wednesday. And they said, well, we were really hoping to have somebody start on Monday. I'm like, I can't do it. So they said, all right, well, call us when you get in and we'll see. I'm like, okay. So I got to California and I saw my dad, and it was like 2:00 when I got there, and I called, and I left a message. Nobody was there, so I left a message. And the next day they called me. Okay. Well, when they called me, I don't know what happened, but I was sick as a dog. I woke up, I was dizzy, I was throwing up. I was achy. I don't know what happened to me, but I was sick as a dog. I just crawled back into bed. They called me at 10 o'clock. They're like, can you be here at 2? I'm like, yes. I hung up and I went right back to sleep. And it was like at 12 o'clock I got up and I'm like, I got to pull myself together. And now I had to find interview clothes. I hadn't unpacked. I was not anticipating this. I go to my car. I have a fever. I go to my car and I pull out. Okay, so it's November 2nd. It's like 5,000 degrees in the afternoon in California. And I pull out a pair of black tights, a pair of black high heels, a black sweater, V-neck, long sleeve sweater, and I still can't believe I wore this on a job interview, but a lilac tiger striped satin skirt with lace trim on the bottom. I don't even know where that came from, and I don't know how I wore it on a job interview. Okay, so that was my interview attire. And then my dad says, do you know how to get there? And I'm like, no. And at that point, this was 2010. So it was a GPS. I said, I'll just put it in my GPS because I didn't have a smartphone and I'm not very smart. So my father says, do you want me to drive you? And without even hesitating, I said, yes. So here I am, the first day of I'm out in California to take care of my dad, and he's taking care of me, which is very appropriate that I'm doing this video on Father's Day. So thank you, Dad. So I took my dad to my job interview. Yes, I did. He waited in the car in 100 degrees, but I did. So I go in the job interview and they put me in the conference room. That's 5,000 degrees. And I'm sitting there literally sweating in my tights and my sweater. And finally somebody comes in and they said, oh, let's put on the air here because, we don't usually use this room. Okay, thank you. So they put the air on and they interview me and they think, it's great. And we'll talk to you. Okay. So I left there and they said, we want to make a decision. We want to have somebody start next week. So, we'll hear from you. You'll hear from us like by tomorrow. So that was a Wednesday. And on Thursday, I fully anticipated hearing from them because, why wouldn't you hire me, right? And I didn't hear from them. But it didn't stop me because I don't know, I had a feeling. And so I went out with my aunt and we went looking at apartments and I signed the papers for an apartment that I was going to live in and pay for with a job I didn't have yet. And then, end of the day comes on Thursday and they didn't call me. And I'm like, okay, well, I have a great apartment. And so I went to bed and, I slept. And I said, there's nothing I can do. If it's not this job, I still have those other 2 people I can call and I will get a job because there is no plan B for that. There has to be a job. Okay. So Friday they called me and they said, can you come in? And we want to, sign you up and get you started so you can start work on Monday. And you'll need to bring your Social Security card and your passport, so we can do your I-9, so that you're verified that you can work in the United States. So your birth certificate or your passport or your Social Security card. Okay. I have all of those. Unfortunately, they are in the storage truck waiting to come to California. So I don't have them. And they said, you know, Jamie, we like you. You are one of 200 applicants that applied for this job. 199 of them are in San Diego. But we picked you. But this is the government you'll be working for, so there's no way around this. You either get the copies. We will take copies until your originals get here, but we at least need a copy, or we have to move on to the next candidate. So luckily, I called, not luckily, because there are no accidents. I just happened to know that my old employer took copies of my I-9 stuff when I presented it to them, even though you're not supposed to. That's a little HR stuff that I know. But anyway, I knew they had it. And I said, let me see if I can get it from them. And they had it. And so I got this job. And that was much longer than I wanted to tell you because there's more to it. So I did the job and I loved the job. And I was working for the commanding officer of the largest command on this naval base. And I also worked for the plant general manager. And their full anticipation was they hired me as a contractor, but they wanted it to be a full-time position. So, and that's what I wanted. Had no interest in being a contractor. I wanted to be a full-time employee. And so that's where we were going. And, but it takes, it's the government, so it takes a bit of time. So I worked there, and now it's time for, it's the following year, and it's about May, June, July, somewhere around there. And now they're starting to work on this because the general manager was going to be retiring and he wanted me in there before anybody else took over. So, and coming from a naval family, they're telling me, you get a job with the government and it's good and it's this and it's that and it's whatever. So I really wanted to make this happen. So when it came time when they were going to post the job, they, had me apply for it, and I had to do my application in such a way that it would match the job posting, right? And so that when the computer does the search for the resumes, that mine would be such a match that it would come up. And, was kind of like behind the scenes, as long as you make it into the pick, you're our pick. Like, okay, all right. I felt really good about it. Well, unfortunately, one thing happened, and that was that the Navy, the government said, any new hires have to be military, former military. So any civilians have to be former military. I don't qualify for that. So my resume never even made it into somebody to look at. So I didn't get the job, which was devastating. And then they didn't want to lose me, so they moved me to another position. And I was not interested in that position. My previous career was always, working for the top level people, CEOs, CFOs, and this was just, I didn't want just a job, you know what I'm saying? So I wanted to feel good about what I was doing. So I started to look for other jobs. And I have never been a person that's had a hard time getting a job. There's always a job. And I could not get a job. But on the flip side of that, on the on the family side of it, everything was wonderful. So I met my aunt, I met this whole side of the family that I might have known existed, but I had never met them. And my aunt had 5 daughters. And the minute I met her 5 daughters, it was like I immediately had 5 new sisters. And then there were my aunt's daughters, children, and like it just my family exploded. It was just phenomenal, the people that love me now and that I love. And so that was just like amazing. But I couldn't get a job. I could not, for the life of me, get a job in California. I couldn't. A friend of mine suggested that I apply for a job in North Carolina, back where I lived, and I did. And they immediately called me. And I didn't get the job, but I'm like, maybe there's just something wrong with California. And so I applied for a job in New York, again, on Craigslist, just to see, what the deal was. Because in California, I couldn't even get anybody to call me back. So I applied for a job in New York, and they called me back. And I'm like, okay, I think California might be broken. So I'm going to look at other jobs. And then like just weird things happen, like with an old boss, and I was going to Charlotte for a vacation, and I was going to meet up with my old boss, and like just weird things happened where I needed to get back to North Carolina. And so I made the move, and I'm not going to go into detail about everything, but within 2 weeks of landing in North Carolina, I had a job. I had a great job. And what that is telling me is that, the universe wanted me to go to California. That was a given, because I cannot even begin to tell you how easy that move was. I drove out there. The boss that I was working for at the time, in addition to my business, I had a part-time job, and he provided he had like 1 million friggin' Marriott miles, and he's like, book your hotels along the way and use my points to get you there. So he paid for my hotel rooms all the way through. And it was so easy. And I got to California, and I really feel like, in addition to taking care of my dad, my mission in California was to connect with my family and become part of that family. And that bond will never, ever be broken, because we are just that tight. And now that happened, I'm supposed to move on, but I was stubborn and I didn't. And the universe was like, I'm gonna make this happen one way or the other. So you can go, or we can go for 5 more years in California in you fighting me. And so I went, and then I got my job. That was friggin' fantastic. So that was the universe giving you signs that you have to pay attention to. You can fight them. You can fight the signs because you think you know better, but something will happen, or you will never be where you want to be. You will never get to where you want to be because you're fighting what's supposed to happen. And be open, because what you think might bring you the happiness may not be what actually is going to bring you the happiness. Got it? So be open to the signs in your life, and don't be stubborn. Okay. So the good thing where I followed, where I just knew. So in 2018, okay, the universe conspires to make things happen for you. So from 2014 to 2018, I worked for my current boss, okay? Um, and we worked in a different company. And we were going through a merger, okay, of two different companies. And our parent company decided to move my boss out and to transfer him to our sister company in Florida. And I wanted to go with him because, I'm originally from Brooklyn, and I just figured, Florida is where, Brooklyn people go next. So I wanted to go with him, and, he was torn. There was an assistant there that he knew, and I was torn because what I want the most for my boss is I want him to be well taken care of. And so I knew on paper that him going there and having that assistant take care of him and show him the ropes, because she had been there for like 127 years, that she could take better care of him than I could. And we had a new CFO coming in, and I knew that I could take better care of him because I knew the ropes where I was than somebody new. So we were parting ways. Yeah, that was not a good day. And he left, and I'm like, well, I want to go to Florida. So the company that I was with, and so when my boss was going to Florida, I was helping him and arranging for him. And at the same time, I'm hoping he's taking me with him. So I'm looking at, places that I want to live and blah, 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 and all this other stuff. And then he leaves me. I'm not bitter, really. I'm over it. He leaves me, and he goes to Florida. And so now I'm not going. And so our companies are merging, and they're trying to decide, where our headquarters is going to be. Is it going to be with that company's headquarters, or is it going to be here? Or is it going to be someplace different? They did a study. Where's the best place to have the headquarters? They decided in the study it was Charlotte, North Carolina, so which we wouldn't move, which made all the kind of sense in the world, right? Well, the universe wasn't listening to them. They were listening to what I wanted, because the powers that be in my parent company and the new company coming in decided, yeah, we want to go to Florida, which was not any of the 5 places that they had studied. And so they ended up putting an office in West Palm Beach, about 10 miles from where my old boss was now working. And when I went to find an apartment, I, by accident, happened to rent in the same apartment complex that he was living in. So long story short, well, it's still got a little bit more to go. But anyway, so my boss and I kept in touch. He left that company and he went to a different company. And he told me, and I said, well, maybe if you need an assistant. And he said yes, he was open to that. And then I didn't hear from him. I didn't hear. So his new company is about 100 miles away from where I was living. So it's in Melbourne, Florida. And I wanted to be there. And I would keep in contact with his wife, and, and I was told for whatever reason, they could hire me, but it wouldn't be to work for him. It wouldn't be to work for my boss. And I didn't know that I wanted to do that, especially, my age, starting over, blah, blah, blah. I was already settled where I was. Well, the universe was giving me a sign, because the company that I was with for 6 years I was just having some issues with some people there that were making it really difficult for me to stay there. And, the universe makes you make these moves. So I was at the point now where I'm like, okay, whatever is going to happen is going to happen. And I need to make a move. I know I need to make a move. So if I can go there and work for somebody else until I can work for my boss, then, I'm open to that. So I still don't hear anything. And then I'm doing a color by number on my phone. And the color by number that day was, before that, in the summer, I had gone to Melbourne, where I live, and I had gone to some open houses in anticipation that I might be living here someday. And I met a realtor, and I kind of told her my story, that I was hoping to come and reconnect with my boss, but I haven't heard from him, and I don't know if anything's happening, but I just thought I would come and check out the area. Well, her name is Heather. Hi, Heather. And she kept in touch with me the whole time, and with no pressure, just checking in on me to see how I was doing, and whatever. And so she would check in with me every couple of weeks or so. And I didn't hear from my boss, and I was just going on with life. And so I was doing this color by number on my phone one day, and it happened to be a picture of a red cardinal, and I always associate that with my dad. And so when I saw the picture, I said, "Hi, Papa. Do you have a message for me?" And I still had the phone in my hand when my boss texted me, and he said, "My HR guy is going to reach out to you today." And I'm like, well, that couldn't have been any more of a message. So the HR guy did reach out to me, and I was excited because I thought, okay, whatever, I'm going to get a job or whatever. And the HR guy reaches out to me, and he said, we had a 7-minute interview, which I'm like, okay, whatever. It was 8 minutes. And I'm like, well, that was the shortest interview ever. That probably isn't a good sign. And especially the last line he said was, well, send me your resume and I'll float it around and see if there's any interest. So usually that is pretty much the kiss of death, unless they end it with, well, good luck in your search, because then it's done. So, okay, well, whatever. So I texted my boss back and I said, this is what he said. And he's like, okay, let me know what you hear. All right, well, that is not a really positive sign. But the universe was telling me something different. And I called my realtor and I said, Heather, let's go shopping. And so we did. I didn't have a job. I didn't have an offer. Honestly, I didn't even have an interview. And it's November. And so it's the weekend after Thanksgiving. We go shopping. I don't find anything. I come up the next week, and when I tell you we looked at 35 houses that weekend, I come back the next weekend, we look at another 17 houses. I don't find anything. And I'm really not a fussy person, but just nothing was working. Just nothing felt right. I found the house that I'm currently living in online myself, and I sent it to Heather, and she's like, Jamie, this ticks every single one of your boxes. I said, let's go see it. And I came to see it the following week along with some other places. And they had an open house the day before and people were interested in it. And I said, Heather, let's just put a bid in. And so put a bid in, they counted, it was accepted. Okay, I moved forward. I'm like, let's go to contract. We went to contract. So we're now into December. I still have not heard anything. I reach out to HR, say hello. Sorry, we're interested, but it's just taking us longer than we thought. Okay. I wish them a happy Christmas, whatever, and we go to break. I'm like, I'm not contacting them before Christmas. And so I don't hear anything. My closing date is set for January 28th. It's the first of the year now. And I wait till the end of that week and I reach out and I just say hello. And they said, okay, we're gonna set up an interview or something. I don't know what it was. I'm like, okay, at least we're moving in the right direction. At least I'll know one way or the other. Now, the house is 100 miles away from where I currently live. Okay, so if I buy this house, which I was closing in a matter of weeks, you know, the place that I live is 100 miles away from the place that I work. So ideally, you know, do you have a plan B? I did have a plan B, but it was a very, 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 very distant plan B. And, but I moved forward in faith, and I had no conversations with my boss that would lead me to believe this was a done deal. The only person I was speaking to was the HR person. And so finally they set up an interview. And so I text my boss and I tell him, my old boss, new boss, same boss, whatever. I text him and I say, I have an interview. And he's like, okay, we should touch base before your interview so I can tell you who's who that you'll be meeting with. So he did. And it was the night before my interview. And I get my list of meeting with, I think, 5 people, and he was one of them. And I'm looking at the list of the people. It's him. It's the administrative manager. It's my HR guy that I was meeting with, and the head of HR. And it was 4 people. And I'm like, okay, well, all of those make sense. But I was trying to figure out who it would be that I was working for, because I wasn't working for Jay. Oh, sorry, I wasn't supposed to say his name, but I wasn't going to be working for him. And I didn't know, so I assumed that maybe I was going to be working for the head of HR. And so he calls me and he says, okay, go through the list. So he's explaining who everybody is and like what my role would be, and I would be backing up somebody. And then something clicks in the conversation, and I'm like, wait a minute, am I going to be working for you? And he said, yes. And with that, I immediately, with my old butt, went from sitting on the couch to jumping up and down on my sofa. And I was going to be working for Jay. And again, I said his name and I wasn't supposed to. So sorry, I told you I was new at this. But anyway, so I go on the interview. I got the job. My boss says, I wouldn't buy a house if I were you. Let's just go here and, maybe you don't like the area, whatever. And I'm like, well, that might be a little problem because I close, January 28th and whatever. But anyway, it's getting a really long, but when you put something out into the universe hears you. And if it's in your best interest, the universe will conspire to make it happen, okay? So one thing you have to be clear on is, what is it? What is it that you want, okay? And even more than that, it's why do you want it? Because when your why is strong enough, there is nothing in the world that can stop this from happening, okay? So my thing right now is what I want more than anything. I mean, I am so grateful for everything that I have. I live in a beautiful home. I work for the greatest guy in the world. And we both work for a fantastic company. I get paid a really great salary. I have friends. I have family that loves me, that I love. I am blessed beyond measure, okay? I have everything. It doesn't mean that we can't want more for ourselves. So what I want now at 62, I'm lying, I'm 46. What just kidding, that was the lie. What I want now, more than anything, is I want to share my life with somebody. I want romance back in my life. I don't want to be alone. I don't want to face however long I have left by myself. Yes, I can do it. I'm perfectly capable of taking care of myself. I just want to be with somebody. I want to laugh with somebody. I want to have fun. I want to have adventures. I want to do crazy things. I want to be in love again. And so that is my beyond my wildest dreams dream. So I have the house, I have the job, I have the boss, I lost weight, I have a wardrobe, I have, 50,000 shoes over there that I love. So now I'm looking for love. And so I got clear on it. I wrote it, I put it out to the universe, and I'm making strides towards it every day. I'm not a online person, meet people, match.com. It's great for everybody else. That's not me. But I am putting it in motion, okay? I am taking steps. I'm taking steps doing things that I like. I'm dealing with a bad back for the last 4 months. So right now I'm focusing on that and getting that taken care of, because they're, I want to go out and do things, but I need to be able to walk, and I'm having issues with that right now. So I'm taking care of that, but I have plans to get out and do things. I do realize the UPS man is probably not my next boyfriend, and I am going to need to be out of the house in order to make this happen. So I do have a plan, and I'm moving forward, and I know what my why is. And I know what I want, and so I'm putting it out there, and I know that the universe is going to help me out, and I'm looking for the signs that that's happening. So it can happen for you as well, and you have to be really clear on what you want and write it down. So I wrote down what I want, what I was looking for in my ideal partner, my tall, dark, handsome man. I wrote this down, everything about, things I wanted to do with him, and where I wanted to go, and how I wanted him to be, and what I wanted him to say, and all that stuff. And it's sealed, and I just put this on my vanity where I can see it every day. And it's not even like you have to pay attention to it, and you don't even have to do this, but it's a reminder to me what I want. And that I'm worth it. I'm worth it. And you are too. So get clear on what you want, write it down or not, pay attention, know your why, and then go get it. Okay? And while you're getting it, go happy yourself too. Okay? Bye.